So you have a business that is looking to set off and reach for the stars. You have a goal or have targets, but you do not know where to start or where to go. You want to transform your business, have a structure, or even have assistants. Then guys, look no further than Olive and Palm. Olive and Palm are a business consultancy firm that specialize in transforming your company into becoming the best it can be. With expertise in digital and agile transformations, they will bring cutting-edge strategies, innovative solutions, and first-person approach to make sure your vision comes to life or get to the next step. Olive and Palm have worked with names such as EasyJet, British Airways, Boots, American Express, Specsavers, Sports Direct, John Lewis, and so much more. So why pick Olive and Palm? Because not only do they have years of expertise and big names behind them, but they are passionate and they do care. They are determined to help you reach your goals. So if you want to get in contact with them, dial on their number at 075525 00041. Or you can even email them at molly@palm-olive.com. Again, their phone number is 075525 00041. And again, their email is molly@palm-olive.com. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Reece Deans on Creative Space Podcast, and today's guest on the show is none other than Sam Haft. He is one half of the Living Tombstone, and he talks about his career with the Living Tombstone, the music that he produces and creates and sings as well. He talks about Has Been Hotel. He talks about, some of the famous names that followed the Living Tombstone. He talks about so much, and he even, at one point, we even talk about him being a very young background character in the film Hocus Pocus. But without further ado, let's just get on with it and let the talking with Sam do the talking, as they say. It's me and Sam on Creative Space Podcast. So Sam, I've been I've listened to your songs. I've listened to The Living Tombstone. I've listened to My Ordinary Life. It's been so long. I've listened to most of them, and I just can't help but look at the stats. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And, just looking at My Ordinary Life, on Spotify, you've had over nearly 600 million listeners for that one song.
Wow. I wasn't even tracking that, so that's very cool to hear.
But what's really interesting though is just did you ever expect with the Living Tombstone, did you ever expect a following that you have, or was you just more than happy to do whatever you wanted to do?
So I think none of us did. The Living Tombstone was started in 2011 by my other half of the duo, Yoav. And I know that he was just sitting in his bedroom playing with his laptop, just trying to find ways to express himself and ways to express his love of the things that he was into, whether that be, video games, TV shows, that kind of thing. And it was really at first just an expression of enthusiasm for the things that mattered to him. There was no sense of, oh, I need an audience for this. I mean, there was really until 2020, we never directed anyone to Spotify before. It wasn't linked to any, there was no sense of, oh yeah, we're a music act and we need people to come listen to us. It was just a matter of putting it out there at the very beginning. It was Tumblr and then YouTube, but there was no sense of, oh, we got to get this on the streaming DSPs so we can capture an audience. There was none of that. It was just, creative people expressing enthusiasm in creative ways.
Mm. And it's just really interesting to see some of the, normally it's like myself, I've written quite a few plays, and I'm just more than happy on my own just to get them on the stage. That's always been me, and I'm just more than happy. If it's on stage, then the rest will do the work. And I get a few friends of mine, especially my friend Mark, who helps me with getting the numbers in, getting the tickets in, and he says, "Do you know how many people you had in this night?" And I'm like, "No, because it doesn't matter if it's one person or 100 or thousands.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just it. That's the main thing."
Absolutely. And I think, it's I actually went to school to be a playwright. And I think that is something that is particularly in live theater and live performance. So much of it is about the satisfaction of a performance well done,
Mm.
much more so than how many people were looking at it. Because especially when you compare live performance to putting things on the internet, there's so many more eyes and ears on the internet. The live performance isn't about the number of people. It's about how you feel when it's being staged or when you are on stage performing it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Would you ever consider having the Living Tombstone do like a musical one day? Go on.
Think about it all the time. Absolutely. I mean, I think, a dream, my dream version of something that could happen for us in the future is like a pop-up musical sort of experience, audio visual experience in a casino in Vegas. That is
Mm.
that is I would love to figure out some kind of elaborately staged Vegas residency. And part of that is like we live in Los Angeles in terms of places to stage it, like it's either locally here or there. But I also think there's something about the way we visually present ourselves where we have a lot of neon and all that. It feels like it's something that could live there. And so that is something we think about.
I gotta ask this question because when you said about playwrights, you wanted to do that. What was it particularly that really interests you in becoming a playwright? Was it something to do with character, dialogue, or maybe plots?
So I'm about to give you perhaps a very unsatisfying answer. And it's that in high school, when I was applying to schools, I saw kind of a fork in the road in that I love being creative and I love making things, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with that. So there was one school that I applied to for thinking that I was going to do some kind of graphic design because that is something that I had been doing in high school. There was the Berklee College of Music in Boston where I wanted to do composing and songwriting. And then there was Purchase College in New York where I applied to their dramatic writing program. And I got into all three, but the girl I was dating at the time was dead set on attending Purchase. So I went with playwriting entirely for like high school romantic reasons,
Mm.
not because like this is the one thing above all. But once I was there in that environment, surrounded by other writers, I really did fall in love with dramatic writing of every kind. And I think that is something I'm so grateful that I didn't go directly into music and that I didn't go to Berkeley. And nothing against Berkeley, but I love the fact that I am when I'm writing, I'm drawing on things I learned about storytelling. I'm not drawing on things I learned about composition. So I think it has ended up being so much more valuable to me.
Mm. Because it's interesting because I when I did a degree in university for script writing, that wasn't my first choice at all. My
Mm,
first choice was acting, and obviously I'm from Wales, but obviously Wales is next door to England. There was a university, Bath Spa University, and there was a degree that I wanted to do. It was acting, and I had an unconditional offer, but I got so homesick. The thought of leaving home was so like I can't leave. Maybe I'm just a proud Welshman. I don't know, but it was just I need somewhere local to stay, and then university in Cardiff, uh, University of South Wales. They said, "Oh, we'll give you an unconditional offer to come and study scriptwriting." And I was like, "Yep, okay." But my family were all like, "You should have gone to Bath. You should have gone across the bridge, man. Just you should have done that." But
I had the same experience.
yeah.
And the all the schools that I applied to except for Berkeley were in New York. And Berkeley was in Boston, and the idea of going somewhere unfamiliar that also, like, there is I'm not going to pretend there isn't kind of like a New York chip on the shoulder of like I live in New York. What am I going to do in Boston? Like there's also that kind of hometown thing that I was feeling. And I just, yeah, everyone I knew was in New York, and I just really didn't have an interest in kind of starting over in a town that I had my entire life been conditioned to feel is not as good as New York. Where in reality, like I've spent time in Boston, it's a great city, but it's, there was me at 17, 18. I was like, what am I going to do in Boston? And I think that was part of it too.
Um, so when did you move out to California then? When was that?
2019, right after having a kid.
Oh, no way. And
Yes.
was it the right call then for you to go move to California because of the work you were doing?
It was I had, before we moved to LA, I would say around 2017, 2018, I started thinking more and more about what it would mean to live in LA and what that would be like. And it was just kind of in the background of, hey, maybe eventually I'm going to end up here. And then a combination of things happened, which really had nothing to do with me. One was my wife got a job offer out here, and two was we had a son. And I grew up in New York City. New York City is a fine place to raise a kid, but we also happened to be in a tiny, tiny, tiny apartment. And we just thought, you know what, we would have more space. There are more professional opportunities for both of us, and my wife had this job offer. So it was one of those things where all of a sudden the planets aligned and it felt like the right timing. And when it had been for, a year or two, just felt like, oh, not now, oh, not now, oh, not now. And then it just felt like, oh, now. And so we moved, and about a month and a half later, or maybe 2 months later, Yoav, my partner in the Living Tombstone, also followed us because we had also in New York, we were living in the same building. Yoav was my upstairs neighbor, and that made working together so convenient for the Living Tombstone. And so once I moved, then it was just kind of a countdown clock for him to move, and then he moved across the street from me. So we stayed as close as we could. Now we're living uncharacteristically far apart, by which I mean he is 4 blocks away from me. So so we, he and I are fairly inseparable, creatively, professionally, and socially. So it's been nice that that has continued across cities.
Mm. So with you and Yoav then, is there when do you two decide to be professional and then have a personal friendship then? Where's that barrier and where does the professionalism stop and then
It's an
uh
interesting question because I think, and I'm sure you would agree that in the creative arts, when you're making stuff collaboratively, there's something that is inherently social about that process. There is not just It's not just, a workplace getting together to stage play. There's also a social fabric to it, which informs the experience of making the thing. And so I think, you know, one of the things that is interesting about Yoav and my relationship is that our creative process is social. And obviously, we socialize, we go to the movies, we get coffee and lunch, we do all the regular social things. But I do feel like there is something very socially fulfilling about our creative relationship professionally as well.
do you know, it's good that you say that because when I did last year when I did a play that I written and I had my best friend again my friend Lewis was the one to go right you got you got Sam from Living Tombstone coming on, right? You got to learn this, you got to learn that. He he's been in, I say, about two of my plays. One of them, it was more like you say, the planets aligned and it had to be done. And then the other one was when we went to London off West End to perform it, and it was such a weird jump from performing in a local theatre in a village outside of your hometown to then go to London. But it's it's so good that we would sit down. It would be me, him, and another good friend of mine, Chris. We sit there and we've done rehearsals, but then we go to the pub, we have a pint, and then we'd just be going, we could do this way, or we could do it that way.
100%. And I think it's one of those things where when you find real mental satisfaction from the work you do, it does have a tendency to invade your social life and your home life. It just becomes something, if it's something that really interests you, you're going to want to talk about it in your downtime.
Oh yeah, and it's like now I'm currently writing a new play, and it's for me and my fiance because her and I we've we've done theatre before, not to get well, we have done theatre together, but she was more like in the background and I was more a front and center. And she said to me, "We've never done a play together." And I was like, "Oh, okay then." And then we made a deal. I'll write the play, she'll direct it. And she said, "I'll let you write it. I'll give you your own time, but when we go into the rehearsal space, I'll direct it." And I was like, "No problem. Fine."
That is is that process, has that been in any way romantic? That's what makes me curious because my wife and I do very, I mean, we're both in entertainment broadly, but she's an attorney, so we don't work together. And I don't know. I mean, my wife is my best friend in the world, but I also have no idea what the experience of working with her would be like.
Well, it is good to ask that because at the moment she's given me a few, I'm
Oh, she's
writing.
yeah.
Yeah, she gives. But what's really good is that, excuse me. What's really interesting is that she wouldn't ask me to change this, that, or to add this. I would be asking her because I. And what's really good is that it's only going to be two characters,
Hmm.
and what was really simple is her character is so easy to write. My character is so difficult to write, and I would be on the computer, and then I would turn to my fiance and go, would it be better if he was this? Or would it be better if he was that? And she'll go, and there'll be two ways of, she'll go, give this a go. Or, I don't know, what do you think? You're the writer. And I'm like, yeah, but you're the director. The only time there was a slight conflict was, it was only like a little smidge. You can't even remember it, but it was to do with the fact that, right, where do we go from here? Where does this character, because I'm still in the process of writing it. I said, you know, it was to do with music. And I said, well, the character, she said, I want it to be classic. He's got to be like classic. And I was like, yeah, but the way I'm thinking about the character is that he's still a young man. And yeah, there are a lot of young people out there who love their classic musics, but I'm thinking for the modern audience who want to try and attract to the theater, we need something that's going to make them sit down and go, oh, I'm going to take interest in that character. And she said to me, well, try, she went, try classic, see how you write it. And then if it's not working, if it doesn't sound well in your head, then rewrite it. So I rewrote it three times and now he's a playwright. Because I was like, yeah,
Oh,
but
that's
it's
cool. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's also a testament to having trust with your partner, but
hmm,
it's just a very unconventional thing because normally, trust in your partner is so much about like it's like an interpersonal concept. It's not a creative and professional concept of like, oh, I trust you, but it's also like, oh, I trust you with my work. I trust you with my vision. And that's a whole different kind of trust than the kind of trust and respect that is normally we discuss when we talk about relationships.
yeah, I know, I agree. Absolutely. And it's really interesting because um especially with my fiance, her name's Emily, by the way. Emily would always say to me, Reese, any script that you write, I will never critique or anything because I know you will do so well with it. And then I always say, yeah, but I'd like to have a little bit of critique so I know where I'm going wrong. But she said, yeah, but all the plays that you've done, you've taken one to London already, whether it be West End or off West End, it doesn't matter. You've done that. So where does that, um, you know more about the profession than I do? And I was like, that's absolutely fine. But at the same time, she's also written a script. I think it was
Yep.
really good. And I'm really surprised she hasn't even put it on stage. And I was even more than happy just to produce it and go, I'll put money in it and I don't care.
But
Yeah, it's a very rare thing I mean, it's one of the reasons people so often in show business say, oh, don't date, like when there's an actor, they say, oh, don't date another actor or don't date another person who does this, because it is so uncommon to find someone who you love who also makes art that you love. That doesn't always carry. You can love someone and then they make something and you go, oh, that's kind of not for me. And that's an awful feeling to have, which is why I've heard a lot of people go, oh, like from actors to say, oh, I don't want to date another actor because what if I see them in something and I don't think they're very good? And it becomes a whole other consideration. And it's very rare to find two creatives in congruent fields where they go, oh wow, like, well, I love your stuff and you love my stuff, and it doesn't always carry that just because you love someone, you love their work.
oh yeah, no, I agree, absolutely agree. I gotta ask this question. I don't know if it's true or not, but I thought it'd be fun because me and Emily were not long ago watching it. Was you a like a background character for Hocus Pocus?
Yes, the answer is yes. Well, the answer is a conditional yes. Yes, I was maybe two or three, maybe I was three, um, and maybe two. And there was a child actor that was booked. With little kids get booked on movies, they often book multiple kids because something comes up. A kid starts crying and is having a bad day. A kid needs a nap. You need a backup kid. I was a backup kid, and kid number one did not show up. And so I was kid number two. I was brought in. They put me in a shopping cart. There was a sequence in a grocery store where the Sanderson sisters are kidnapping kids, as they do. And I was one such kidnapped kid where there's a shopping cart, and I happen to be a kid sitting in the child seat in the shopping cart, for which they dyed my hair blonde. Now it's not so shocking because I have, as an adult, now also dyed my hair blonde. But I have traditionally graying black hair. So I had dyed blonde hair for this sequence, and it was in the theatrical cut of the film, but not in the home video cut of the film. So I, as an adult, have never seen me in Hocus Pocus. So the answer is yes and no. Yes, yes, I was in it. Yes, but no, you probably didn't see me in it because I don't think I'm in the home video release.
It's all good because I mean I've got dark hair, black hair, and I got streaks of grey coming as well. So I sympathize with you on that one.
I will say when your hair gets gray enough, because I'm all gray down the sides, it's very convenient to dye your hair blonde because your roots don't really come in because it's growing in gray.
Mm.
So I never have roots over here, but you can see that my roots are coming in the front where I still have some black hair.
There was another film. I know that there's been a few films that you worked on, but for some reason it just popped up, and I didn't look into it well, so I thought I'd ask you. Inside Llewellyn Davis, what was your contribution
Yes.
for that?
So, yeah, when I was in college, music was a fairly late pivot for me. Even though I applied to and got into Berklee School of Music in high school, I didn't revisit music for a long time. When I went into playwriting and acting, and I got this audition for Inside Llewyn Davis, which I was so excited because I was a huge Coen Brothers fan. I mean, like a lot of young men in college, I loved The Big Lebowski, and so I was, and I then from The Big Lebowski went off to explore their other work, which I adored, and I was so excited about this because I had been busking on the street with a guitar, just recreationally, and so folk music was something that I was very attached to, and the opportunity to read for Inside Llewyn Davis was so exciting. And I auditioned and it went well, and they called me back, and again and again and again. They called me back 4 or 5 times playing in front of Joel and Ethan. And I later learned that by the end of this, the only people being called back were for this role were myself and Adam Driver. And then, like the week before I was potentially to show up for rehearsals, I found out that Adam got that role that I was reading for, which was Al Cody, in the sequence where they're like outer space, that bit. And they were still rather fond of me, so they gave me a much smaller role in when Llewyn Davis gets to Chicago at the venue, the Gate of Horn that F. Murray Abraham runs, and he performs for F. Murray Abraham. I'm the other guy that works there. When he shows up, I'm the guy that's there and makes him wait. So tiny role, but like very, very cool to be on set of a Coen Brothers movie, to hang out with F. Murray Abraham and Oscar Isaac. Really, really nice folks. And yeah, I mean, it was, in spite of how little it was a truly tremendous experience.
Mm. I can only imagine what it'd be like to be on a Coen Brothers film set as well.
The thing that I found really stunning is the way that they directed in tandem. Is one person, one Coen, Joel would be, standing behind camera, and like Ethan off kind of examining and calling out notes, and then they would swap even within the same shot or scene, and then Ethan's behind the camera and Joel's saying, oh, maybe do this. I've never seen director pairs that operate in that kind of way. And it was really cool to watch. And also, it never felt, it doesn't feel like there are small roles in Coen Brothers films, because all of their films have very, very small principal cast lists. I think the principal cast of Inside Llewyn Davis is like maybe 20 people. So it's very intimate, and in such a cool way. And we shot at the Gate of Horn. I think we shot inside the Gramercy Theater in Manhattan, which was like a venue that I lived close to, and I've seen a lot of shows there, and it was so cool.
Going on to Has Been Hotel.
Oh yeah.
Could you tell us more about it? What's your role and what the show is, to be precise.
Absolutely. So, Has Been Hotel is a show about, I think a great point of comparison is saying it's like a fucked up Disney princess show, in that it is about the princess of hell who, is cares very much about hell and the people of hell, in spite of the fact that the people that occupy hell are mostly awful. And it is her attempts to redeem some people who are in hell. She creates this hotel, which is, titled the Has Been Hotel, where these wayward souls who are very flawed and very difficult to spend time with check into the Has Been Hotel for her to help them be redeemed and get to heaven. And it's a musical, and I co-write all the music with one of my writing partners, a guy named Andrew Underberg, who I've known for 21 years because he and I went to high school together. And that is, just a really great collaboration. The music is so fun. It is there's one season out. It is 8 episodes, each 22 minutes apiece. The second season is on its way. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, this year. Animation pipelines tend to be a little loosey-goosey, so it could be this year, could be who knows. And we have finished work on the music for season 2. We've actually just wrapped up writing for season 3 and are soon to start season 4. It was such a phenomenon on Prime Video that it was renewed through the end of season 4 by the time season 1 came out, which is wild. Like that it doesn't happen. And yet it has. So that is it's found such a passionate audience. I go to a lot of comic cons and stuff like that, and the thing that really is stunning is I grew up going to a lot of comic cons. I'm a nerdy guy, and
Same.
yeah, and you see cosplay, people that are dressed up in costumes as characters, and the way Has Been Hotel has so taken over the subconscious of the collective subconscious of Comic Cons is incredible. I mean, easily 30 to 60% of costumes that you will see at a given Comic Con in the US. I haven't done an international one yet, but easily 30 to 60% of all the costumes are related to Has Been Hotel, which is just incredible. I mean, in terms of just a barometer of the way a piece of media has affected an audience, it's been incredible to see. The people really responded very well to the soundtrack, for which I'm greatly appreciative of. I think it's got something like 1.5 billion streams. It's the week after the show came out, I remember waking up and getting an alert on my phone from the Spotify for Artists, which is, where if when you distribute things to Spotify, there's a separate Spotify app that lets you look at your metrics. And it informed me I was the number 55 artist on all of Spotify globally that day. So that, I mean, it blew me away. The response to it has been incredible. The process of making it was so amazing. We got to work with all this absolutely amazing Broadway talent, and I'm such a theater kid, as we have connected on, educated to be a playwright. I was going to musicals since I was a kid, and getting to see some of these people who I had seen on stage and getting to write songs for them and direct them was just incredible. I mean, what an experience.
It's just amazing as well when the projects that you create and then you see people who adore the show and they make the costumes themselves and they put so much time and effort into it. Same as like you guys put the time and effort into the show. It probably it maybe warms your heart so much that you've got a following that put so much effort in to show the love and appreciation that we love the show and we're going to support it all the way.
Absolutely. And it is one of those things that makes you it something that I talk about a lot is the fact that we try when we're making the show, we try not to make the music with them in mind, in that we don't want this idea of like, oh, look, there are all these people and they're so emotionally and mentally invested in the show. We try not to make that color our creative process. We try to have our creative process be solely driven by the creator showrunner, whose name is Vivienne Medrano. And, it's our job to represent what she wants, not what they want. But that becomes, I would say, increasingly something that you need to do consciously, is when you're writing this music, to try and push down any of those instincts of like, oh, what are people going to think of this? Because at the end of the day, that's not our job. If anything, that's Vivienne's job. It's her job to worry about how is the audience going to interact with this scene or this episode. And it's our job just to make sure she feels like her vision for what this show is, what this musical is represented, in song the way she sees it and hears it in her head.
And again, as well, you got 3 seasons ahead as well. Season 2, season 3, season 4 to look forward to. And it's just, I bet you just sit there and go, man, what a spark and how it ignited. And
It's incredible. And Viv also has another show called Hell of a Boss, which is a spinoff of Has Been Hotel that exists. It's an indie show. Her studio owns and finances it and puts it out on YouTube. And between both of these shows, I realized by the end of this year, I will have written and co-written over 100 songs, which is just, I mean, it's stunning. Like there are major music acts that don't have 100-song catalog, and the idea that there will be this much music it's so exciting for me, because I get to I don't know. I think being prolific is people tend to use it as a compliment, but I don't think of it as a compliment. I think of it as a privilege because in order to be prolific, you need a place to put that art. And I am so lucky to have a place to put all of this art.
Oh, no, yeah, I agree. Because at the end of the day, when people put the word prolific in, yeah, you could come. It is a compliment, but at the same time, you got to put the work in somewhere, and it's got to be discovered, and it's got to grow.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, I could make 100 songs by myself and maybe no one would hear them. So I think the idea that it's not just 100 songs, it's 100 songs with an audience that wants to hear 100 songs. That's amazing.
So you have a business that is looking to set off and reach for the stars. You have a goal or have targets, but you do not know where to start or where to go. You want to transform your business, have a structure, or even have assistants. Then guys, look no further than Olive and Palm. Olive and Palm are a business consultancy firm that specialize in transforming your company into becoming the best it can be. With expertise in digital and agile transformations, they will bring cutting-edge strategies, innovative solutions, and first-person approach to make sure your vision comes to life or get to the next step. Olive and Palm have worked with names such as EasyJet, British Airways, Boots, American Express, Specsavers, Sports Direct, John Lewis, and so much more. So why pick Olive and Palm? Because not only do they have years of expertise and big names behind them, but they are passionate and they do care. They are determined to help you reach your goals. So if you want to get in contact with them, dial on their number at 0755525 00041. Or you can even email them at molly@palm-olive.com. Again, their phone number is 0755525 00041. And again, their email is molly@palm-olive.com.
Is there any song, whether it is as a solo or with the Living Tombstone, is there any particular song or songs that you're most proud of? I know it's like when people ask that question, it's always like asking a writer or an actor is like, "What's your favorite role? What's your favorite book?" And it's like saying, "What's your favorite child?" or something like that. But
No, I have a view of my own the linear progression of my own life that is very, I would say, anti-regret in that I believe that like because I like where I am now, everything that got me there, I wouldn't change a thing. So when I look at the songs that I'm most proud of, I think of songs that most got me where to where I currently am. So one of them, the one that would be top of the list is the one that I have sort of tattooed on my arm, the first four bars here, which is a song called My Ordinary Life, which was the first song I co-wrote with Yoav for the Living Tombstone. And it really, first of all, the beginning of a co-writer relationship that has been so central to my professional life, to my social life, to my life, period. And it is also the most popular song I've ever been involved in. And it's just to that end, it means so much to me. It did so much to get me where I am now. And another one would be the first song I wrote for Vivienne, the showrunner of Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss, which was a song called You Will Be Okay, which was, had that song not been to her liking, I probably wouldn't have ever worked with her again. I'd have never gotten the opportunity to do more stuff for Hell of a Boss, let alone to write the show, the music on the show Has Been Hotel. So I think that song, and You Will Be Okay, was such a personal song for me because it is a song that a character sings to their young child to reassure them. And at the time, my son was 1 year old, and I was feeling all of these massive, massive feelings that when you become a parent, it just, you feel feelings bigger than you thought it was possible to feel in your life up until that point. And I had not processed them into art at that point in my life. And so being able to do that for the first time, and to have it reflect the experience, or not reflect the experience, but reflect the feeling of the character in the show that was doing it. It came at the perfect time for me, and it meant so much to me. And I think people, when they saw the song in the show and they heard it, it that meaning got communicated to them as well. I'm so grateful for that song for also setting me on this path as a songwriter for cartoons.
Especially when you have a following, you get many notable people following. Excuse me. Um, I read somewhere that Jack Black and Will Smith are the type of individuals that follow the Living Tombstone music.
Yes, I think one of the first, perhaps the first ever posts that Jack Black made on TikTok was singing the song Five Nights at Freddy's from the Living Tombstone that Yoav wrote in 2014. And so, Will Smith also was doing this trend to this remix of Spooky Scary Skeletons also, and so I think it's really cool to look at something like that and go, oh, there's a real cultural footprint. There are people who, like, would have no idea who we were on the street. We could be looking each other in the eye, and they'd have no idea, but they know the work, and that is so cool.
And excuse me, I'm just recovering from laryngitis as well. My voice has been on a big roller coaster.
Yeah, drink a
Uh,
lot of tea and honey, I guess.
I know. I just drink a lot of tea. I'm like, yeah, and a lot of water, so that's the best thing for me. Um, right. The one I gotta mention is that I heard you going on a tour. The Living Tombs are going on tour.
Absolutely, yes. So we have, let me see, this feels kind of like a party trick that I have sort of memorized our entire tour routing. There are a couple dates that we haven't announced yet, so I won't include them in this, but I will tell you right now, our tour is Dublin, Glasgow, Manchester, London, Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin, Cologne, Prague, proximal to Prague it's called the Rock for People Festival, and then Milan. That's our Western Europe tour that starts at the end of May and goes through mid-June. Then early July, there's some stuff we haven't announced yet, so I'm going to hold that for later. But then beginning of August, we have our Latin America tour, and that consists of Monterrey, Guadalajara, Mexico City, Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, Lima, and Santiago. And then that's the first half of August. And then at the end of September through mid-November, we have Columbus, Ohio, Toronto, Montreal, Boston, New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale, and I might get the next three out of order, but it's Dallas, Houston, Austin, then Phoenix, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, Salt Lake City, Denver, and I might get the order a little off here. And then I want to say it's St. Louis, Madison, Wisconsin, Chicago, and Detroit. So I want to say it's like 50 shows. And I'm not at the end of July, we're also performing at a convention called Nerdcore PartyCon, which is in Dallas. That's July 21st. This is the stuff that I need rattling around my head, or maybe I don't need it, but I have it rattling around my head. I'm so excited for this tour. I'm so, frankly, a little scared. Not for being on stage in front of these people. I think stage fright is no longer a mental thing for us. Although I've noticed it's still kind of a physical thing for me when we're backstage before a show. I definitely feel, my heart's pumping. I'm getting my adrenal system is still very active. But the thing that is scary a little bit is I've never been away from home that long.
Mm.
You know, I'm such a I love travel, but I am such a homebody that in the US tour, which is the end of September through mid-November, I mean, I'm going to be away from home for like a month and a half, and I've never done that in my life. So I'm very excited, but I am nervous because it's not just, I went to summer camp when I was a kid. I slept in a cabin in Maine for a month. And I've spent time in other cities, but it's different to spend time in a city than it is to spend time on a tour bus. It's a very like the you don't really have access to creature comforts. You don't have access to a lot of square footage. You're sleeping kind of like Nosferatu, like this, in a bus that's going 60 miles an hour. It's it's just a it's a lifestyle that is so new to us because in spite of the fact that we've been making music for a long time, we haven't been like a real touring act until the last year. So it's so new to us and we're still adapting to it and we're still learning how to take care of ourselves on the road. The when we were on the road this last year, it still felt kind of like vacation. And so part of that was, oh, we're having fun, we're spending time together, we're being social. We went bowling all the time. And yet I don't think we were taking very good care of ourselves, which is fine when you're on the road for 6 or 7 days at a time, which is how it worked last year. But this time, you can't not take care of yourself for a month and a half. You'll be a disaster. So it's figuring that out is going to be really interesting. And I'm very grateful that I have this work on Has Been Hotel because now I'm friends with all this amazing Broadway talent.
Mm.
And I can hit them up and say, hey, like, what do you do to keep your voice in shape when you're doing 6 shows a week? What do you do to stay active when you're off stage? All of that stuff is something that we're still figuring out. And I'm excited to figure out, but I'm nervous. It's intimidating to go out on the road for so long.
Especially in front of loads of people as well. That it's
Mm.
going to be new. It's going to be different. The response and the reception is going to be. It's like a wave of different responses. But I
Yeah,
hope you, I hope you have fun doing it. That's the whole point.
yeah, and I do have fun. I think my version of the fun happens. My this is a weird thing to say maybe, but my fun peaks the moment we get off stage. Now that could be it's the moment we get off stage after the full set before the encore. That is when my fun peaks because once we get off at that point, then the encore is play. The encore is not work. But the stage show until the encore is work. And once we get off and, Yoav and I pop our helmets off, we can look at each other and go, we did a great job. And that is when I feel really good because I'm a people pleaser. I care so much about the people who are paying money to go see us that they have the best experience possible. And so for me, it's not even, oh, I'm on stage, I'm performing, I'm having such a good time. It makes me feel so good to step off and look at Yoav and be like, we gave them a great time.
Yeah, and the weight is lifted off your shoulders as well.
Absolutely.
And one thing I gotta mention as well, because I kind of agree with you. It's not a weird thing to say, because I agree with you, because it's the feeling of it's that feeling of success and I don't know how to explain it, but every time I've done a show and people have applauded and everything, it's that rush, that adrenaline rush of, my God, you did something great. Now let's have fun with it because it's amazing.
Absolutely. And I think, there is, especially from people who don't do this, I'm asked all the time about how much fun it is to be on stage during the show. And it is fun, and there are bits that are very fun. But I also think until that moment that we step off to get ready for the encore, that fun is balanced by a sense of responsibility because I am still responsible for these people having a great time. And so once I step off, and then there's the chant of one more song or encore, or in when we performed in Montreal, it was they started doing football chants for us, which was great. Uh, but once there's that, then the sense of responsibility is lifted. There's this idea that we were responsible for this and we delivered it. Now let's all have fun together. That is such a good feeling.
Mm. Oh no, I completely agree. Absolutely. Um, when I a couple of years ago when I did like an Amdram show, uh, we did Sister Act,
Mm,
and I played Detective Eddie Souther, and it was I where was it? I think it was the Saturday or the Sunday, and the crowd was just booming. And there was a scene where obviously I got to kiss Dolores, the main girl, and it was just before that. It was the fact that when the villain was going to shoot her, and my character shoots her, and everyone's like, "Yeah," just like that. And then having to kiss her, and everyone's like, "Oh my God," like clapping. It's just, I knew right there and then the weight it just lifted off my shoulders. I thought I did a good job.
yes, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, entertainment is weirdly, it's a service business. It's kind of a service industry. And at the end, like you need that tactile feedback from the crowd to let you know that you have performed your services well.
You've done your duties. Now
Yeah,
rest.
yeah, yeah.
So, when it comes to the music and when it comes to doing the shows and everything, there's always that one film or the one TV show that's always going to be mentioned, and you've probably had it loads of times. It's going to be Five Nights at Freddy's. Um,
Yes.
when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's, I remember I've never played the game. I've always watched YouTube videos like Daz Games or Markiplier doing it, um, and just seeing what the concept of Five Nights at Freddy's is for you. And with Living Tombstone, what was it like to work with the production to get music for Five Nights at Freddy's?
Well, something that's really interesting that I don't know that many of our friends are aware of is the fact that Scott, the creator of the games, actually reached out to Yoav with the purpose of trying to get the song involved in the film back in 2018. So this was before the final script, before the final director was attached. I believe this was when the project was at Universal before it was at Universal with Blumhouse. So it was so early on, and part of that is that Scott, the creator of the games, has such a very clear sense of what the fans are looking for and understood that in the context of the film, presenting this song as part of it in the credits was something that would uh, really show an awareness of the fan base and the way that the fan base interacts with the franchise, and just a love letter to the fans. And so that was something that Scott had in mind for a very long time before the film even went into production. So we knew that that was coming for a long time. But I think the most exciting part of it was getting to go and be on set, which is not something that often happens if you just have a sync placement in the movie. You're rarely on set. It's normally the movie's in editing and then they want to use a song and then someone reaches out, the music supervisor reaches out to a music publisher and then you get an email from your label or whatever it is. So there's very rarely a sense that early on that a song is going to get used that would be early enough to get the music act on set while the movie's being shot. So first of all, that was so, so exciting. And getting to be there with Yoav, who wrote the song, 10 years earlier, well, 9 years at the time, and getting to be there and watch Yoav internalize this progression that he had taken as an artist from being in his bedroom, writing this on a laptop, to now being in a major multi-million dollar Hollywood production with actors he recognizes, with the animatronics built by the Henson Creature Company, the Henson Creature Shop, with this Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria built 360 degrees in a soundstage in New Orleans, getting to walk around this environment that he had only seen represented digitally. It was so cool as as his best friend, also to just like see him internalize that journey that he had taken as an artist. And it made it a very meaningful experience for me as well, just like getting to see him achieve that, and to sit in Video Village, which is the area on a movie set where you're watching sort of the screen of what is on camera. Getting to sit in Video Village with Scott and his family was really cool. It was just a lovely experience, and everyone was so kind to us in a way that is also not always the case in entertainment. A film set is a very stressful environment, and you do not always have the luxury of kindness on a film set. And it was very nice that we were afforded that. And yeah, just such a cool experience in general.
It's amazing to hear the experience that you had and so many opportunities. Also, forgive me when I was off camera at one point. I noticed on my computer, it went low battery, and I was like, okay, and I had to rush and charge it in quickly. So forgive me for.
All good.
Um, but luckily enough, I've got one more question for you, Sam.
Great.
And I always ask my guests this question, so I'm really keen to hear what you have to say on this. How do you look back on your career so far?
Um, I look back on my career as a story of collaboration, and the power of being pro-social. It's something I think about a lot, is that when people say entertainment is a people business, what people often take that to mean is, oh, it's about who you know. And that's really not what it is. I think, in my opinion, the idea of entertainment as a people business is because there are, as we discussed earlier, because there are social fabrics to any form of creating collaboratively. Um, so much of it is about providing the people who work around you and with you with a positive experience of doing so. And I think it's not about, oh, I know this person. It's about, I worked with this person and they enjoyed working with me. So much of what I think is what got me where I am now is the fact that I love my work and I work extremely hard, but I also spend so much time agonizing about about the process of working with me being a nice experience for people. And I think what I would credit 100% with where I am now is just making it low stress for for me to work with people and for people to work with me. So I think if I were to look back on my career and say, what is the story of it? It is the story of being pro-social. And I think there are so many people that approach entertainment as competitive and not cooperative. This idea that there are only so many opportunities and I need to fight you to get them. And I think at the end of the day, like that's not how it bears out. And I would be this way whether or not there was a positive consequence for being this way. But what I have discovered by being this way is that people want people want a cooperative experience. People don't want someone to just be the best by themselves. People want an experience and a collaborator that tries to make everyone around them look good, that tries to make everyone around them feel good about the work. And I think if there's something that I could impart to people, it's that you have to be pro-social, and you have to really care about everyone around you succeeding, and worry less about yourself, worry less about being a genius, being talented, any of that stuff that is aimed inward, that is all about your own qualities. And you should worry more about the people around you and making them feel heard and taken care of, and making them have a nice time being your collaborator.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Creative Space Podcast channel. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified for more content in the future. Thank you once again.